fresh new approach to all the old things, and because they were avant-garde, they were free of trying to be judged by the standards of others. Even if they lacked a degree, it didn't matter because they were above the thinking of the times and taking it on to the next level, so the degree wouldn't have helped them and it rather would have been hindering. Now that is a trend that happens. And every trend has good benefits and bad benefits. The bad benefit of an avant-garde thinking is then people come in with absolute BS and without the uh, regimen that guarantees you get the good stuff. How do you keep that aspect out? Well, these are problems that haven't been solved. They were problems that have been faced and transpired through. And John Cage happened to benefit from an avant-garde period and was deemed such. So then this guy who criticized college ends up teaching at it. Go figure, and so he became a professor. But that's not, none of that is the important thing because that wasn't really an achievement or disachievement, because in one area, if you consider getting the college education part of it, well, he never got that. So it's neither here nor there, but it was a way he was able to make a living and sustain himself and at least be, able to keep the same social life he had growing up, especially considering he came from a pretty wealthy family. And I know that because of his life story and the events that took place. He just mentioned that he wanted to go to Europe and spend some time there, and his mother and his family just said, "Okay, we'll go do that." And while he was there, he always continued questioning stuff. He studied architecture for a while, and one teacher said to him, he's get out of Gothic architecture and switch to modern architecture, and he did. And then the teacher of modern architecture told him, said, to achieve anything in this field, you have to be willing to dedicate your life to it. So he quit that very day. He said, "Okay, I'm not willing to do that," and walked away from it. Well, is that a good thing or a bad thing? He's taken his professor's advice and going forward by being honest with himself and what he was willing to give to it. So he walked away from it. So here's one college education experience he had, one national, regular school he goes to. Now he's got a teacher who's giving the college education, but he's getting to travel too. And he still wasn't done with his searching for what his destiny was going to be and looking for what field of study he would go into. Well, then he got into music. And he decided this was something that he could dedicate his life to. Well, a composer at the time, Schoenberg, said to him, studying someone who he looked up to, and Schoenberg, considered him promising aspect as a mind, but then once he got to trying to apply it to music, he found out the man had no sense of melody. And now he's finally found something he wants to dedicate his life to. He starts off, he's got ways and means, but coming from a family. He's got an intellect, but when he finally finds what he wants, he doesn't have what his own person he looked up to said didn't have what it takes to do it. And he said if you try and continue with it, it's just going to be beating your head on a wall because you're not going to get through it. You weren't born with it. And he said, then I will dedicate my life to beating my head on that wall. And that sounds like such a hard-headed thing to say, but he's already decided that he's committed to it. And the first trial of being committed to it was taking the advice of someone who was aspiring to, he came into the field because of an aspiration. That's one of them things where they say sometimes it's not good to meet your heroes. And I have an experience that someday on the Beggar's Tomb I might really share. It'd probably be a whole season in and of itself of meeting my hero, and finding out, well, it's not necessarily the hero's fault if they disappoint you, if you made it stated going into things leading up to the point that they're your hero. It gives you ridiculous expectations, first of all, in what behavior to have towards you, and secondly, it gives the people around you too many ways to intersect that point in time, meaning that as you draw towards something, it's already, people feel they already know what your intentions are, and therefore their response to things might be based on that. But anyhow, that's off the course, and that's a good thing to get off the course sometimes, because it's like getting off a busy highway and doing a little off-road driving things. You don't really see a whole lot on the freeways sometimes, but freeways are the best way to get from point A to B if you want to get there fast. So we've got to get back on the freeway here, and I got it right here. Okay, this is where he comes into the concept of going into a different type of religious study than what he came up with. You know, being Anglo-Saxon in the United States, white dude, in other words, coming up, and more on what's referred to as the boss wealthy Anglo-Saxon Protestants. I think that's one of those words that it's not nice though, because it's kind of not a, wasps are bad things that sting, and it's not fair to like label people like that. But that's what the word that people generally refer to people from his socioeconomic starting point came from. And